I just want to expand today on a post that I did earlier that I was discussing with a couple of members. It's a post where I really talked about identity and whether or not you can have a meaningful life without having an identity. And this often raises the question of an existential crisis. The idea being if you don't know who you are, then there is no meaning in life. So, a couple of things I want to define. First and foremost, by identity, what I mean is that you fix a label onto yourself. You categorize yourself as a certain thing, a type of person. And that label comes with a set of rules you must follow. To be this person, I must do that and I must not do this. So an example, like an identity I used to have was the nice guy. Sometimes I'd be the funny guy or the smart guy. Some people have labels based on their job, like I'm a lawyer or I'm a coach. Others, it's based on whatever's most important to them, like I'm a parent, I'm a good mother, or I'm a good father, or I'm a good son. It's a family relationship thing. Now, these are identities. These are labels, and the labels come with a rule or many rules. So if I'm a nice guy, I can never be mean to somebody, which means I struggle to have confrontations. If I'm a good mother, then I can never put myself before my children, which means I'll sacrifice myself and get burnt out and my children will suffer. And on and on. So when I say letting go of an identity, I mean letting go of being one fixed thing and following a set of rules forever. It doesn't mean having no meaning. Existentialism, it's a philosophy that I'm diving in deeper at the moment. I'm rereading Nietzsche, who's kind of the father of this philosophy. And a lot of people, I think, they misunderstand existentialism, like I once did, as being a philosophy about how there is no point. There is no meaning in life. God is dead, there is nothing to live for. But that's not what existentialism is. Existentialism means that there is existence before meaning. So previous philosophies and many other philosophies imply that meaning is inherent in existence, that existence and meaning happen at the same time, that there is a point, there is a purpose for life, there is a meaning of life. This is where most religions come from. They claim to have found that meaning, that this meaning is something that we discover and then we have to live by it. So we discover that the meaning of life is to serve God and we have to live by the 10 Commandments. And if we fail to do that, we're not living with purpose and we have no meaning. We're doing it wrong. What existentialism says, through the idea that God is dead, is that no, you're born into a meaningless world. And that's where most people stop, that life has no meaning, and they get all bummed out about it. But the truth is that goes further than that. It says it starts with no meaning. There's existence. It's just abstract, neutral. Everything that exists is neutral. It has no meaning until you decide what the meaning is. So existentialism is the philosophy that no, there is no greater hidden purpose that we need to discover. It's actually something we create in our own lifetime for ourselves. And that's kind of the point of life, is to come up with a point of life. It's not to find something that already exists, it's to create it. I think I just spat on the camera there. So when someone has an existential crisis, it's because they've come to the conclusion that life is pointless and there is no meaning, but they haven't yet taken that step to go, and I have to do something about that. I have to create a meaning. People who believe in the more religious model that there is a meaning to be discovered are the ones who create identities, these fixed labels, because they're trying to discover that kind of hidden code in the universe. They find something that's consistent, that serves a purpose and is valuable to others, and they think that must be the meaning. Like they have kids and they go, okay, I'm very important to my children, therefore being a parent must be the thing I was looking for, and I must be a good parent, and I must follow the rules. Or they have some sort of spiritual moment and they think it's God, I'm trying to find God. Or like me, they sort of find something that gets a good reaction and they go, that must be what I want to be. It must be what I should be doing. And quite often I think that's how people create their identity, is what gets the best reaction from others. They think if it gets a good reaction from my peers, I must have discovered the way and keep living by it even if it sucks. So that's what I did with nice guy syndrome, is I found that being a nice, funny guy got consistently positive reactions. So I figured, I've found the way. That's the way I'm supposed to live, even though it was inauthentic. Where existentialism comes in is where I kind of combine it with the concept of integrity, is you have to discover over the course of your lifetime what your meaning is by creating it. And you create it in this kind of never-ending trial and error experiment. You're never one thing. You never stop and stay one thing. You're actually constantly fluid, constantly changing. And that lines up with scientific discovery. I mean, a human body constantly changes. The atoms that make up who you are now are all completely different to the atoms that you were born as. You've completely changed. You're a whole new person. And so it makes sense that if there is any meaning or purpose to life, it must be a constantly changing thing, a constantly created thing. And that's where, we talk about values and brojo. There are these principles that you discover over time work well for you personally. You like them. You think they're meaningful. You give importance to them. You decide. So when I say discover, what I really mean is you're actively creating through experimentation, not that you're trying to find something that's hidden out there and was waiting for you to be born so that you could discover it. I've found over the years that being dishonest didn't work very well for me and I didn't like it, while being honest is coming up trumps for me. It's fucking going pretty well. So I've come to the conclusion, honesty, that's my value. I decided that. Now, the funny thing is, the whole world around me has actually discouraged me from being honest. I was firmly encouraged to be dishonest. For most of my early life, people laughed and patted me on the back and said I was a good boy for faking it. They congratulated me and rewarded me for being fake. So for me to come to the conclusion that honesty is the right way to go means actually going against all the signs that I'm seeing out there and deciding, no, there is something I believe internally is right. And even though everybody else is against it, I'm going to do it anyway. So many people encouraged me to be cowardly throughout my life, to take the safe option, the easy option, to avoid risk, to never go all in and so on. But when I played with that, I found it far more enjoyable and satisfying than playing it safe. So I decided courage was a value. I was constantly discouraged from taking responsibility throughout my life. I was surrounded by people who just did nothing but blame all the time. Everything that went wrong was somebody else's fault. Everybody around me seemed to really love the whole victim mentality thing. But I discovered that if I took responsibility for everything about myself, every decision I ever made and everything that ever happened to me was mine to deal with, life was so much better for me. It was harder and more effort, but much more satisfying. So I decided responsibility was a value. And on and on. Now, does that mean you should have honesty, courage, responsibility as your values? No, because they're my ones. I found them. I created them, I should say. And your ones might be different. You might disagree with everything I've said. That's fine. As long as you came to that conclusion and created it, starting with the understanding that there's nothing to be found externally. There is not a purpose waiting to be revealed. It's waiting to be created. It doesn't exist until you create it. And once you do create it, it's only for you, and it can change. It can constantly update. When I think of who I am, who is Daniel, there is no answer to that. There's just, what am I doing right now? How do I feel about it? Does it align with the principles that I've chosen as being meaningful for me? And if not, does it mean I need to update my principles, or have I gone off track? And I constantly update, so there is no Daniel. There's just a collection of atoms that give rise to consciousness and decide what they want to do with their time here. That's it. I decide. Yeah. So I just wanted to clarify that short post that I did earlier. Existentialism does not mean despair. It does not mean life sucks. There is no point. What it means is there is no point, so it's on you to make one. And you can make it anything you want, and you can change it every single day. But holding on to one thing because other people approve of it, or because someone else told you that was their purpose, it's blind leading the blind. They don't know what they're doing either, so don't listen to them. Figure it out for yourself. Cheers.